Hello everybody and welcome back to Simply Six. We've all heard of serial killers like Jeffrey Dahmer and John Wayne Gacey who spent the rest of their lives in prison once apprehended, but there are some who, though they had killed multiple people, only served a short time behind bars for their crimes, and they are the ones we will be looking at today as we count down 6 serial killers who are now free. Number 6. Carla Homoka and Paul Bernardo met in 1987 when Carla was 17 and Paul was 23 and began dating. And on December of that same year, Paul proposed to Carla, to which she said yes. Paul began spending a lot of time with Carla's family, developing an obsession with Carla's sister, Tammy, often watching her through her bedroom window while she slept, sometimes even going in to pleasure himself. Karla, well aware of this, even assisted Paul by helping provide easier access to her sister's room, and in 1990, the murderous duo's killing began. While having a party with Tammy, Karla slipped halothane into her sister's cocktail so that she could gift Paul with her sister's virginity. While Karla filmed Paul taking advantage of her sister, Tammy began to vomit, leading to her death. After covering up the evidence, the couple called 911, and Tammy's death was initially ruled an accident. The couple's first murder would go unpunished, for now. Next, in 1991, Paul would kidnap 14-year-old Leslie Mahaffey, and after the girl's blindfold that they had placed on her came off during their deeds, they decided she had to die, fearing she would be able to identify them. 15-year-old Kristen French would be their last victim before finally being captured. Though Paul was sentenced to 25 years with the possibility of parole, Karla would only receive 12 years in return for testifying against Paul. Released in July of 2005, Karla is now living her life as a free woman. Number 5. Born in October of 1936, Arnfinn Nassette was a Norwegian nurse who would become one of the most notorious serial killers in Scandinavian history. Working as a nursing home administrator at a geriatric institution between 1977 and 1980, Nassette would poison the patients in the facility by injecting them with succinylmethonium chloride. Suspicion was raised at the unusually high mortality rate of the facility by an employee only after they noticed the purchase of a large amount of the poison. Once Nassette had been brought in by the police, he initially claimed that the poison was intended to be used on wild dogs. However, upon further questioning, Nassette began confessing to the killings of 27 patients. In fact, he went on to claim that he had killed so many people he could no longer even remember them all. This led to a 5-month investigation, with police going all the way back to 1962 and pulling the records of previous employers Nassette had worked for. And in 1983, Nassette would be charged and convicted on 22 counts of murder, though it is believed that Nassette may have killed as many as 138. He was then sentenced to 21 years in prison, which was the maximum allowed by Norwegian law at the time. However, Nassette was released after serving only 12 years of his sentence for good behavior and is now walking as a free man. Number 4. Charlene Gallagher was born on October 10th of 1956 in Stockton, California, into a supportive home. Charlene was often described as a quiet and shy yet intelligent and well-spoken child. However, by high school, she began using drugs and alcohol heavily, which continued into adulthood. After 2 failed marriages and a failed affair, Charlene soon met her third husband, Gerald. Though Gerald was still married, that didn't stop him from marrying Charlene. The two had what would be described as a good sex life, but it is believed that Gerald soon expressed to Charlene his desire to have disposable sex slaves. Charlene agreed to help him, and the two began what would be a deadly 2-year spree of kidnapping, rape, and murder between 1978 and 1980. By the time the two were finally caught in November of 1980, they would have taken the lives of at least 10 young girls and women throughout California, Nevada, and Oregon. After their capture, Gerald would face trial and receive the death penalty and sentenced to die in the gas chamber. However, Gerald would never see his execution carried out. He would instead die in prison due to cancer. Charlene, on the other hand, was given a plea deal and in exchange for testifying against her husband would have her sentence reduced to only 16 years and 8 months. After serving her sentence, Charlene was released at age 40. After moving back to Sacramento, California, she changed her name to Mary and remarried. She is now reportedly operating 2 charities and living her life as a free woman despite taking the lives of so many. Number 3. The Lane's Angels of Death were 4 Austrian nurses working at a geriatric nursing center who began what they would refer to as mercy killings in 1983, when one of the nurses took it upon herself to end the suffering of a patient by way of a lethal overdose of morphine. After her first kill, she then recruited 3 more nurses who referred to themselves as angels because they were ending the suffering of the terminally ill. However, the 4 would soon move on from killing terminally ill to just any patient who annoyed them, as well as discontinuing the use of morphine to a much more cruel method. While one held a patient's nose closed, the other 3 would restrain the victim and pour water into their mouths, drowning them. The 4 were able to continue their sadistic murder spree for 6 years without raising much suspicion due to the fact that elderly patients tend to have excess moisture or water in their lungs. So their method was not only effective, it was also intelligent. However, the 4 nurses would be their own downfall when they were overheard in a tavern in 1989 bragging about their latest kill. After an investigation brought on once authorities were alerted, all 4 women were charged with various crimes, including the murder of 49 innocent victims and sentenced to prison. Though it is believed they may have killed as many as 200, all 4 women would be set free to live out their lives by 2008 due to good behavior. Upon release, all 4 changed their names and are now living in undisclosed locations. Number 2. Louis Van Shore is known as South Africa's worst serial killer for the murders he committed while working as a security guard in Cape Town from 1986 to 1989. Shore would respond to silent alarms that were triggered at local businesses, where he would arrive and then shoot suspects with his 9mm, all of which were either black or mixed race. It is believed that Shore would even shoot innocent bystanders while responding to the alarms. Prior to his conviction, Shore admitted to a journalist that he had shot 100 people during his time as a security guard, as if he were proud of that fact. Though he was never cautioned from authorities as it was recorded that he acted within the law, he was finally brought to trial by the families of the victims, where he was found guilty of 7 counts of murder and 2 attempted murders by the Supreme Court and sentenced to 20 years in prison. Official victim counts range from 9 to 39, but when asked if it was true that he had shot more than 100 black people, Shore simply replied, "I can't argue with that. I never kept count." After serving only 12 years of his 20-year sentence, Shore was released in 2004, walking out of the prison gate into the embrace of his fiancée, leaving his daughter behind in the same prison, who is serving a 25-year sentence for hiring a hitman to murder her own mother. And number 1. Known as the Monster of the Andes, Pedro Lopez was first arrested for stealing cars and selling them to local chop shops. Lopez claimed that while he was incarcerated, he was gang raped. After this event, he found those who raped him and killed them. After his release, Lopez moved to Peru, where he began killing young girls. Lopez would later claim that by 1978, he had already killed over 100 girls. It was then that he was captured by a tribe who were planning to execute him when they were convinced to hand him over to state police. However, he was quickly released and then moved back to Colombia and then to Ecuador, where he claimed he began killing on average 3 girls per week, stating, "I like the girls in Ecuador. They are more gentle and trusting, more innocent." Lopez would continue his killing spree until March of 1980, when he was cornered by market traders and arrested after a failed abduction. In 1981, Lopez was convicted of 3 murders, although he confessed to 350. The police would not believe his confession of so many killings until a flash flood uncovered a mass grave, which contained many of his victims. After the discovery of the mass grave, Lopez was then charged with 110 counts of murder and sentenced to the maximum time allowed by Ecuadorian law at the time, 16 years. After serving only 14 years, he was released, at which point he was transferred to a Colombian hospital. After 1 year in the psychiatric wing, he was declared sane and released on $50 bail in 1998, becoming a free man despite killing possibly 350 innocent young girls. His current whereabouts are unknown. Well, that's it for today. If you have a video suggestion you would like to see, just leave it in the comment section below. If your suggestion is used, your comment will be featured at the beginning of your suggested video. But for now, take care, and I will see you all next time.